Hey, I got the net. You know, in 2 weeks' time, on Shabbos is the Yartzeit of the Rebbe. And I wanted to say something from the Rebbe on this week's Torah portion that really epitomizes and brings to the forefront who the Rebbe was, what his message was, and how he cared about every Jew. This whole week there's been people, we've been at Minyan in the morning, and there's people walking by, walking to the open. There's people going back. I was in the open, I saw everyone. We've been hanging out inside, outside, wrapping tefillin with Jews, you know, giving them challah, Shabbos candles, whatever they may need, and making sure they know that there's a Jewish community here and they should feel welcome, especially at a place like the country club that never allowed Jews. But I found something out this week that I never knew, which means that the reason why it's called the U.S. Open is because, unlike other golf tournaments, the U.S. Open is anyone could compete. You don't have to be an athlete and a professional to compete. Any amateur could try out and be able to compete. And I think, in fact, there was one either from Worcester or from Wellesley. It was an amateur who got into the U.S. Open and many others. And that's why it's called the U.S. Open, because everyone could compete. You know, and it made me think about something powerful in this week's Torah portion and what the Rebbe teaches us about it. In the portion of Ba'alotcha, we read about the manna. And the rabbis in the Talmud and the Tractate of Yuma tell us that there was 3 types of ways you were able to get the manna. And they learn it out from the words that is brought down in the different times the Torah speaks about the manna. One way was like bread. Another way was like cake. And a third way was like crystals that had to be ground into grain and then baked. And the Talmud tells us that the righteous people, the tzaddikim, they would get the manna, would fall at the doorpost, and it would come as bread, the most important vital sustenance that we need for our bodies for nourishment. The Beinonim, those were intermediate, they weren't righteous, but they weren't wicked. They got it in the form of cake, and they had to go out a little bit from there, walk a little bit to get it and collect it. It was cake, it wasn't bread, but it was still ready to eat, and it was close by their house. The wicked people, they would get it as grains of stalk, and they would have to walk far to the outskirts of town to pick up the manna from heaven that came. This is what the Talmud tells us. So when an average person, a simple person looks at this, any of us look at this, we say, listen, look at these wicked people, they're wicked. That's why they had to walk so far to get the manna. They weren't deserving of it. The Lubavitcher Rebbe, in his masterful way, with so much love and care for every Jew, said something so revolutionary. He says the manna is bread from heaven. It's the most spiritual thing we could get. King David in Psalms calls it the Gan HaShamayim, the grain from heaven. It's a spiritual, holy sustenance for our nourishment, for our body and soul. And even the wicked person, who's not intermediary, he's a wicked person. The Torah is telling us, says the Rebbe, that even she or he are able to digest and internalize spirituality and deserve the right to connect to God, to holiness, to spirituality, to their Judaism. So instead of seeing it as a negative, that they had to walk far and they had to grind it and make it into food, the Rebbe sees the positive to teach us that even the Jew who, so to speak, is wicked, is able to internalize spirituality and connect to Hashem. What a powerful way to enter the Holy Shabbos with this beautiful message from the Rebbe, as we're only 2 weeks away from his Yartzeit, and we try to continue and strive to bring the Rebbe's vision and mission to this world, love unconditionally for every human being, every Jew, and to pull them, not to push them towards Judaism, and to come to a moment and a time we will be in the utopian era of peace, of godliness, and we will see good and know good only. God bless you. Shabbat Shalom.